Hello and welcome to the talk, The Bodies to the Past for Political Action, organized by ITESO Center for Cultural Promotion, the Cultural Management and the Arts and Creation undergraduate programs. This event is happening within the 19th University Cultural Festival and the Human Rights Tattoo event happening in Guadalajara. My name is Sandra Livingston. I'm an undergraduate cultural management student and I am delighted to be here with you today. Now it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our two wonderful speakers, Alina Peña and Sander Van Bussel. Alina Peña Iguarán, who works at ITESO, holds a Ph.D. in Hispanic Studies from the Boston University. She is part of the National System of Researchers and participates in the network of Biopolitics and Necropolitics studies in Latin America. Since 2015, she has collaborated with the Institute of Performance and Politics of the University of New York. Her project is Hemispheric Encounters, developing Transborder Research-Creation Practice. Her research topics are aesthetics and biopolitics, memory and subjectivity in context of violence, border and disappearance. It's great to have you here. Bienvenida.
Thanks, Sandra.
Now, Sander Van Bussel. He is an artist and socio-artistic entrepreneur. He is the founder of the project Human Rights Tattoo, project which, through collective action, seeks to raise awareness about human rights across the world. He is curator and initiator of the Kaapstad Festival in Tilburg, the Netherlands, as well as founder, concept developer, artist, and of the Tilburg Cowboys Collective, composed of artists who create interventions to raise awareness about social issues and promote dialogue and empathy. He is a graduate of the AKB Sint-Joost Academy of Arts, from where he is now a lecturer as well. Thank you so much for being here. Fijn dat je er bent.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
It's great. Well, so without any further ado, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Sandra, for everything, and thanks to all the organizers of this beautiful event. Well, first of all, I have to apologize beforehand for my terrible English. I haven't spoken English like for 10 years or something like that. So I might mispronounce some words or make fun construction with sentences, but hopefully this won't interfere in our dialogue. Okay. Sander, I would like to start this chat with you, this conversation, with an anecdote. Okay? So let me begin. When I learned about human rights tattoo a few years ago, I think it was 2016, it really called my attention. In that time, the tragedy of Ayotzinapa was very recent. As you might know, this is the case of the disappearance of 43 students in Guerrero in 2014. A crime that has not been resolved yet. I thought back then in those days that having a massive tattoo action in front of La Fiscalía is the public prosecutor's office, would be very powerful to raise awareness and pressure the government to find them. But that was my angry imagination, desperately trying to find some options. I'm trying to reach here the trigger moment back in 2012. Maybe the moment of anger and sadness as well that activated the project and activated you. So before we continue, I would like you to share with us the memory of your friend.
Yes, I think,
Miaya.
I think the anecdote you're telling is quite similar actually. Like I was working with a colleague and artist, Steven Nyash, in the Netherlands, and he was from Kenya. And 2 years after I met him, he was murdered in the slums because of doing his work, basically. Raising his voice, speaking for his community, doing all kinds of projects, and supposedly that's what got him killed. So that was, for me, that was anger or grief, sadness, a lot of emotions. And of course, it was a mirror for myself as well, because as an artist from the Netherlands, usually I don't feel I risk my life by doing this job. So there was some reflection. But the idea for human rights too actually came directly from that emotion, and like a way to protect people, or like, this cannot happen, this is impossible, this is insane, why is this happening, why is there no investigation about this murder? So the idea about forming some kind of bond, some kind of unity to to be together. So you cannot take away 34 students, not one artist from Kenya. Like that was the idea. So I get that emotion, yeah. So, but for me, that's if you talk like, will it work? Because that's maybe the best question. Will it work if we like do 34 tattoos in front of? I'm not sure. Will they listen? That's one question. But will people, like I noticed in the last years doing this project, that the motivation for getting a tattoo is very personal, not like big issues concerning other, but very personal. It might have to do with your own anger, with your own emotion. That can be the disappearance of students, but next week your emotion will be somewhere else. So everybody who's getting a tattoo has a very unique, personal reason to do that. So that's, I think, what I like. And my reason is only that story, like that story where it started. That's not never where it ends, of course.
So every time that you conduct these active or, well, these collective tattooing actions, do you talk about Steve? Do you talk about your emotion, and then you collect what people that participate
actually
feel? I mean, this is more like an experience thing, no?
Actually, that story, that's a good question, because that story about Stephen has been more to the background. Like maybe in the first year it was very clear, like people ask me, why are you doing this? So then I need to explain. But as years moved on, that story, how it started, became, for me, just as significant, but the story became bigger. So that's only one story out of now 4,400 something. So there are thousands of more unique stories added. So the significance of my story has become very small.
Okay.
And I like that.
Yeah.
This is not like an artwork signed by me. So this is not your typical painting with a signature.
Wow. I was thinking about talking something else, but I'm gonna move forward because of because what you just said. I think there are many ways to create political art, and politics in art has to do with question things or change the rules, for example. And that's something, when I was writing all these, my ideas, I was writing them down, my ideas, I thought about the figure or the role of the author in this specific project, which is very, as you just said right now.
Yeah.
I mean, because you are not the executor of these tattoos.
No.
No?
No, not at
So
all.
what happened with the traditional idea of artist
Yeah,
in a
good
project
one.
like this one?
Yeah, that's a good one. So, because, it's a community artwork, so it's made by a lot of people. I think the concept or the idea was by me, that's quite clear. So it was my head it came from. But even in the first weeks, it got picked up with a lot of people who said, can I join this project? Can I work with you on this idea? And so immediately it was like bigger, and I knew that was needed because this is not something you do alone. But I think there's a lot of culture which is not signed. So the artist, if you think like paintings, that's really the handwriting of the painter. But if you think about theater or music or architecture, it's never made by one person, by one author. Even though it might be addressed like the architecture of Gaudi is typically his handwriting, but he didn't build it.
No.
So it's like it has to be larger than that. And so my signature is very small, very small,
Very small, yeah.
very small. And I think that should be it. Like, I don't own human rights. I'm not the one to talk about it. It's like all those people who make it, the tattoo artists, the people who carry a tattoo, the people who organize it. I think that's what makes this project a community artwork.
So do you see this project like in the future? Because I know that you've been doing this for almost 10 years, since
Yep.
2012.
Yep.
Yeah, so next year is going to be a decade,
Yeah,
right?
this is a bit confronting, but yes.
No. But do you see this project like walking by itself without you? For example, like,
Yeah.
here is the declaration, these are the next words we need to tattoo, so
Yes.
take it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. That's why because I knew when maybe that's the reflection I had as well when I started. So as an artist, of course, I'm born, raised in a very privileged environment. So my life is not at risk, but everybody's life is vulnerable. So
Yeah.
if you start something like that, you have to make sure it will be finished, with or without me. Of course, I want to be part of it. But not necessarily. No,
Yeah.
of course not. If I, for bad luck, die tomorrow, it will not stop, of course.
Hopefully not.
No.
I mean, that
yeah.
you don't die.
No, and I hope it won't stop. I hope it will. Maybe it will change, and that's all good.
And do you imagine the project Human Rights Tattoo, like making complicity with social movements, for example, like, I don't know, we have like these dates in the calendar when we commemorate, I don't know, October the 2nd, for example, no, la masacre de Tlatelolco, or whatever. Do you see this project like contributing with that kind of events or social activities more linked to social movements?
So, like in the future, or no?
Yeah,
Like-
whatever. Yeah, well, I mean, I think you have 8 more years of this project, no? Till you finish all the letters. Yeah.
I hope 4.
Okay, you hope for.
4 years. So yeah, so like the day the Declaration of Human Rights was issued was December 10th, which is celebrated as Human Rights Day. So that usually is a busy day for us. But apart from that, maybe I don't understand exactly the question. So what do you think? Like, are there dates that this community like celebrates something, or?
Yeah, like linking the activity of tattooing with a social movement, like specific social movement,
yes.
or a commemoration date or something like that.
Yes, but well, we did that in the past. Yes,
Okay,
of
you
course,
have
like
done it.
like December 10th, which is because that's most logically that's when we celebrate the existence of the Declaration of Human Rights.
Okay.
So next December it will this be the 74th? Oh, 70. No, 72nd or 73rd year.
Okay.
It was issued in 1948, so calculate. But
We do the maths.
so that's like most logically that on that date we celebrate something and tattoo. But last year we did the International Wheelchair Day as well, with
Okay.
a group of wheelchair basketball players in Nepal. So they had a march with their wheelchairs in public space, and in the afternoon we had a tattoo event where everyone was gathered and we tattooed more letters of the Declaration. So that was like a beautiful connection, and of course then the event is more focused on awareness on the rights of the disabled in Nepal or worldwide. But as I said, like an event can unite people with very different reasons or opinions.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, I think we should celebrate every day. We have them, and be aware of we have to stand up and fight for them every day as well.
I know it's very complicated to talk about human rights in Mexico because we are really struggling with enforcing them. No, we have huge problems related to human rights, and I was checking at the website, and you use a word that really caught my attention to identify this project, and you call it a talisman.
Ah,
So I went quickly to the dictionary to
Yeah.
look up for the word, And this is what I find. The talisman is, it says, is an object ascribed with religious or magical powers intended to protect, heal, or keep its owner safe from harm.
Yes.
So that's a very beautiful way to see the project, as a talisman.
Yes, it's not an object, it gets under your skin, but
It gets on your
it has
skin.
that symbolic meaning, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, or it can have that, like if you choose to.
So it's going to be like a 7,000 talismans walking on the world. No?
Yes, and then again one, like it's one
Exactly,
declaration.
it's one
yeah,
declaration.
so that's one. But that I think that's the maybe the part of the initial idea that I think if you have like people have one letter out of this text, you cannot erase one letter. That will change the meaning, and in that way it might protect people. But that was obviously like maybe a naive thought. Of course, the tattoo won't protect you, but
Yeah, no.
it's something like to create some kind of community where you feel one. I doubt it will protect
But
people,
it
but that was part
creates
of my dream.
your desire, yeah.
my desire.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with art, that it creates a symbolic horizon that says things can be different. And I think that's
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 beautifully
one
said,
of the power
yes.
of art. And then in the website, because I really stalk you, no?
Yes.
So I find this this idea that also caught my attention, which is a very, very nice image, that you said that it's a letter is the beginning of a story. So everyone is carrying a letter, and that can be the beginning of a story. So this idea of a project that disseminates in 7,773 people, no? I mean, each person can tell their own story. So as a piece of art, it's always open, right?
Yes, and it's alive.
And it's
that-
alive.
I think that's an important part, yeah, to have like a declaration of human rights, not as a document in the drawer of a courtroom, but something you keep close with you every day.
Yeah.
And it's not owned by politicians, or it's not
No, of
owned by
course not.
courtrooms.
No, no, no.
Of course, you have to address them, like, and hold them accountable. But these rights are ours. Like, if you're born as a human, you have these rights. So that's very simple. It's a very simple concept, actually.
It's very simple and very difficult at the same time.
Yes, of course. But
Yeah.
it's like we are human, so we have these rights.
Yeah, of
So
course.
that's, I think that's where these stories start, and you're talking, you're doing your job, you're making friends, and that's, I think, where this story starts. And yes, tattoos are conversation starters. They can be, of course. You can hide them, or
Yeah.
sometimes they. And yeah, one letter is not that clear.
Exactly.
It was not that clear. It's not like a symbol we already know.
Exactly.
It's not like some religious symbols. Like it will be immediately clear. Like if you carry a religious symbol, that will be very visible. But this is one letter, so you have to ask, what is that letter doing on your arm, wrist, or yeah.
So, Sander, talking
Yeah.
about, or pulling the thread of story, do you remember one of these testimonies
Ooh,
that would you like to share with us?
ooh, that's a good question. Like, I think they're all important. So to name one is like to name
Well,
your
name
favorite
two.
children or
Yeah.
favorite child. Like that's an important. Like, it's impossible, no? Like you have. Of course, it's not my children, but like it feels like all these stories are important. It's not me to choose.
No,
It's
but
a-
one
but-
that really, stay with you.
I,
moved you?
of course, there's this story which we had a tattoo event in Geneva in Switzerland, and there was this man. We actually we were kind of finished for that day, and we were tired, and like, whew, we managed, and there was this man, and somebody introduced him and said, Andume Ola Tushani is in the building. I'm sorry, I don't know his name. Said you might Google him now because and introduce him, invite him to get a tattoo. So I just quickly Googled, he spent 28 years in an American prison, innocently, 20 years on death row. So when he came out, being innocent, that is his new task in his life, to talk about that, to raise awareness. So, and he was like the most modest and kind man you could imagine, and he got a tattoo. And so that was like, that's a story that stuck with me. Like, of course, this is sad and a story that he was imprisoned innocently, but the way he was living his life, the way he was still very positive, hopeful, that was very strong for me. Like how he was, he was denied his human rights for 28 years, and he came out like very open-minded and positive, hopeful man. So yeah, that's an example.
That's
an example for okay. So yeah, then you know, okay, we have to do our best, like, because he's really a good living example of how to live your life.
Yeah. Sandra, I think that you wanted to ask a question, right? That's what you told me before. So I think.
Oh, well, I have heaps of questions, actually.
Great. Go ahead.
Well, actually, there is something that I would like both of you to address. We're talking about concepts which, both of these concepts, art and politics, have so many definitions and connotations. In this context, what does art and politics mean to you?
Ooh. Would you be the one to answer first? Or maybe Sandra yourself? Yeah, because that's a difficult question.
I asked the question.
Okay,
I'm hoping for an answer.
You're right, you're right.
She's the one that
All
shoots.
right.
Well, I think that we can address politics in two ways. Like in the common sense, the daily life, we call politics to what politicians do and their administrative jobs. And for example, the right that we have to vote if we live in a democratic regime. No? So we relate politics to politicians, administrative jobs, elections, and that's it. But I think there is a deeper and more richer dimension of politics, which has to do with the way we understand the world. What we see, or the way we see, the way we speak, the way we see ourselves, the way we understand. That's like the order of social life, which is made of politics. So when art interferes in that order, it becomes political. Because art has the power to create the impossible from the possible.
That's well said,
how
yes.
I would describe. And I think it becomes more defined and challenging when you relate arts, politics, and ethics, which is, I think, what you exactly do.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, my answer would start not with politics, but with art, being an artist.
An artist.
And for me, art is my vehicle, my means of expressing myself, of contributing to society, and in that way, maybe being political. But as art can be a love song as well, and can be a protest song as well, I think.
And can be part of the status quo as well.
Yes.
And that's political as well.
So yes, and
Absolutely.
For myself, of course, I enjoy art. I love art, but the art I feel I have to make or want to make is always a part of a society, I guess, and wants to change something or wants to address something, or so. There has to be some kind of interaction. I'm not an artist who sits in a studio and makes something and throws it out to like, okay, and then waits what happens. No, it's all about that interaction. So that's for me is very important. In that way, my art, in your definition, is political. Yes. So I'm like the politician, governmental part of art is. That's for me not quite interesting, or is not not something which I think about a lot. So some projects are, in that sense, are not political at all. So
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that I think that's important about art. Like no, but yeah, I can't help it. It's like what I come up with the idea. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think art is not gonna change us.
no,
Art is not gonna save us. But it
Not
might
by itself,
it might
no.
shake us a little bit.
yeah, keep you awake.
And it will exactly. And I think that's being fair with art.
Yeah, or
Because sometimes we think that art is gonna change the
Yes.
world. No, it's a change maker. And no, it has to do with
It
the
ca-
realm of sensible.
it can ask the right questions, maybe, or new questions. Like, okay, I
Exactly.
haven't asked that
can raise
question,
new
and
questions.
so, and if a question is there, then you are triggered to find an answer, even if there is no answer, of course. But that's, I think, what art can do. Like, ask relevant questions, new questions, and that yeah, I think that keeps you awake.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. You mentioned also art as a vehicle, and I couldn't help but think of yourself as a vehicle. So
Yeah.
now we have this trichotomy, right? It's art, politics, and the body. And that's actually what we're here to talk about today. So, what can you say about a body?
Yeah, that's well. If you the body in the project Human Rights to is obviously very important
Yeah.
because that's where it starts. But for me, being here physically, that's where it starts as well. So I think every artist or human being, if you start, so a vehicle for expression. So yes, if you are a singer, you have to use your body. If you are a dancer, you will use your body. A sculpture will use his hands, and so that's where the emotion comes out, because the emotion is not visible yet. It has to be made visible or audible or whatever. So that's, yeah, it's a vehicle. But and then Human Rights too is a very physical artwork in itself, being carried by people who are mortal as well. So that's the thing. Maybe it will die in the end.
Yeah. When I was looking at the website again, I was looking at all these images of different skins and different parts of the body, and I couldn't help it, but I think about the relationship between skin color, race, and racism. And deploy there like this huge, how you say, like a panorama of bodies and colors and shapes, and just that image, I think, is very powerful, because it's related to, is human rights really for everyone? Socially, I mean, historically, it's really for everyone. And I think maybe you have to say something, I mean, not now, of course not. No, but when you see that with distance, maybe it's gonna, boom, it's gonna shock you. Because it's a very powerful image.
Yeah. I think the aim of the project is to make it as universal as possible. Like, what is it? What is a universal human being? Like, these rights are universal, and so we are all born free and equal. How does that look?
Which is
I
not
don't
true.
know.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but that's the first sentence. All human
Yeah.
beings are born free and equal in
And
dignity
equal.
and rights. And that's quite a statement. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a statement. of
So
course.
that's what you're born with.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and also the idea that the body is the first and the last frontier that you can defend.
Exactly.
And I think that's why also the project is very powerful, because when you think it closely and for a little bit time, you find it very powerful. That's why I think it's linked to many things.
Yeah.
At least here in Mexico, at least what I'm really concerned about, it's a very appealing project. Yeah.
But then again, it won't change, it won't help, it won't really change the world. That's not the power of art, I guess. So
No.
that's,
But it creates a conversation.
exactly.
At
So,
least.
yeah, working on this project so long, of course, that's the question I ask myself.
Of course.
Does it help? Why am I doing this? Because there's a lot of things I can do in 10 years, like why I'm doing this specific project, like keep on doing that. And then it's the question the issue you mentioned earlier, can this exist without the artist? Yes, very big yes. I want to be part of it, I choose to be part of it, but not necessarily. So.
But maybe the key is going to be in the memory of the testimonies. I think
Yep.
there
Yep.
we'll find the juice.
Yep. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, and and even the testimonies are a moment,
Exactly.
a moment in life. We get requests from people who read their testimonial on the website, and it's been years since they wrote it. And so, can I change it? If you want, of course, because that's where the story starts. And now, like maybe years later, things have evolved. So that's of course my hope, my dream. That within all these people we tattooed are future politicians and world leaders.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and then you can hold them accountable because what are you doing? You have this human rights tattoo. What is this plan you're making? So to hold them accountable, but that's maybe a naive dream, but it's nice to think about it, right?
Yeah.
Of course, there are some people who I don't question people's motivation for getting a human rights tattoo, but so there might be people among them who actually doing things which, like, okay, maybe what is that tattoo on your body? How does that relate to the things you're doing? And so I hope they question themselves. So that's like it's a moral compass.
Yeah.
It can be I hope it will be a moral compass for some people. But
I was, as I was listening to you, I thought about also this idea that, well, now the notion of art has exploded, right? So we're talking more about aesthetic experiences, sensible experiences. So a person that gets a tattoo maybe is going to tell the story to his or her friends. And that's a new, well, not new, but that's a different realm of art, which is more close to experience. It's not a contemplation disposition. It's more, as you say, it's alive, it will change, it's disseminated. So it's very difficult to, it's nothing that, it's not an activity that you can measure the impact. Because it's not objectivity, it's subjectivity.
Yep.
And maybe in the dimension of subjectivity, it has its power. No?
I hope so.
I hope.
What do you think?
I think it does. I think it.
Okay.
I think.
There's one thing I forgot to ask you before we started. Are you two getting a tattoo on Thursday?
I know they closed the registration,
Okay.
so I'm going to the beach. No, you know.
I am getting one.
Okay.
She's getting
Yes.
one.
So there's a lot of questions we can
Yeah.
can ask you.
Oh. Of
So
course.
why are you getting this tattoo? Because all these questions asked by me, because I can answer why I got my tattoo. So, but what is your motivation, or what can it mean for you?
Wow, that's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I first heard about this project, it was actually a couple of years, the first time that you came back in 2016, because a friend of mine got a tattoo. And I just remember thinking, oh wow, that's cool, but that was it. Like, I saw he posted something on Instagram, I think, but we never really talked about it. So I knew this project existed, but never really got into it. And now that I was invited to participate in this event, I started also doing my research. I will call it doing my research and not stalking you, just to sound a little bit more professional. But yeah, I also believe it's so incredible to see like such diversity And also, I think it's a very powerful statement. I was thinking about, because I told my dad he hates tattoos or any kind of body modifications. And I've had several throughout my life, so it's always been like a conversation. And I knew that it would help me to have a conversation with my dad.
Okay.
Because it's so hard. Like, I constantly try to talk to him like about climate crisis and all these kind of things. And sometimes I feel kind of ignored, if I'm being totally honest with you. And I thought like, okay, I will get it somewhere extremely visible. He will hate it. And we will talk about it.
Wow, thank you for sharing this. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it's extremely specific because I wasn't thinking like, oh, I will talk to all of my friends about it. I was specifically thinking about my dad. And I'm not saying that he isn't conscious about human rights or that he doesn't care. But I just like to have like these kind of conversations with him because we can differ a lot sometimes. And I thought this was a great opportunity. It's also something that I believe in. I think the project is wonderful. And yeah.
No, but I like that because as you explain, the tattoo itself is controversial within the relationship with your father. I think that's a great way of like, yeah, what you call, I don't know the English word, but to poke within the and to stir things up, and because it's controversial, but the discussion will be about something meaningful. So that's I like that. Yeah.
So Dad, if you're watching this,
oh, he doesn't know yet.
Oh no,
Yeah,
he will find
He
out
will.
probably like
Pretty
next
soon.
weekend or something.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so that's a reason.
Okay, so maybe we're done. Or do you wanna add
Is there-
something?
Well, a lot has been said. I feel like being interrogated a bit, but no, it's perfectly fine. No, as I said, because sometimes I feel a little bit uncomfortable being asked these questions. As I said, my role within the project is with every new tattoo, my role will be smaller and smaller. I'm just one of those. Like,
Yeah.
I have just one letter. So behind the screens, I'm managing it, but that's it. That's it. Can be done by other people. Can be done better as well. Like so that's. Sometimes I feel a bit uneasy about talking about it too much, and all these compliments. So it's like, but thank you. Of course, it helps me to pursue this or to keep on going. Even it won't stop if I stop, but it helps, of course. I think that's where part of my motivation comes from, like meeting all these people like you, and having these conversations. So that is what keeps me going, and that really helps. So yes, thank you for that. But if this talk has to be something, then I hope it will be a motivation for other people, like all these students, to pursue their ideas, like not to think this idea is too crazy, but just all ideas, take them seriously. Talk with other people about them. Talk about what connects you, because that's how this started. I just had this idea when I was showering, but I recognized it's like, well, yeah, this is not a bad idea actually. So, but when I started talking about it, that's when it started rolling. So I think that's the invitation. Like, of course, this is a project is already is there, but I think we need like thousands of these projects. Like, everybody use their talent. If you're an artist, use your art. If you're a journalist, use your journalism. Like, if you add your talent in the best possible way, I think a lot of things can change. And then, like, art won't change the world, but if everybody like starts acting and starts using their best ideas as a motivation, I think the world will change. That's my hope. I might be
Yeah,
I
mean,
might be
that's
naive. I might
no,
be
no,
naive.
no,
but
that's a beautiful
I hope.
desire.
I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to be naive sometimes.
Yes. A wise man once said, it was Desmond Tutu, he was being asked, "Why are you so optimistic?" And he answered, "My dear, I'm not optimistic, I'm merely a prisoner of hope." Which that's a sentence very dear to me, because
Yeah.
I can relate to that, like being a prisoner of hope. So you choose to be hopeful,
Yeah.
even though
Yes.
you know it might be naive.
Yeah, if we can choose to be anything, why not hopeful, right?
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Sander.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank you both for sharing your experience, your reflections with us. It was really great listening
Thanks,
to both
Sander.
of you. And well, we also want to thank the ITESO community, the teachers, the students, and everyone who participated in this activity. I know this is a field indeed in which there are way more questions than answers, but I think that's also something good. It helps us to reflect, and hopefully this conversation will contribute to your own reflections, and why not also to push you to do that project that you have been dreaming about. So the deepest gratitude goes to all of you who made this possible, including Lapka and Synestesica, who helped us with the recording, the transmission, and all the technical stuff. And well, the activities continue, so we encourage you to visit cultura.iteso.mx and humanrightsattitude.org. And well, thank you and see you soon, hopefully.